Hello, hi, and welcome to Political Quickie, your political show that subjectively discusses current affairs in South Africa and all around the world. My name is Mapasikamura. The presidency on Saturday announced free higher education for poor and working class students. That is, students who are currently enrolled in TB2 colleges as well as universities, and the combined household income amounts to 350,000 rands per annum. So initially when this was announced, everyone was like, yes, we are here, we have arrived, this has happened, and everybody was in jubilation. But then immediately after that, people were concerned, like, how exactly is the government going to fund this? Considering the fact that the Hehe Commission's report into the feasibility of free higher education had concluded that actually the government does not have the capacity to fund free higher education right now. So I just thought, you know what, how about we put our heads together and try to help government out in terms of, finding this money that will fund this free education that's already been announced. So, when you look at countries that have free higher education, the likes of Germany and Norway, the biggest source of funding comes from taxation. And so that's a good place to start. The first form of tax that we can increase is sin tax. A lot of people have been, saying this, which is actually a great idea. South Africans generally drink like fish, especially right now in December. So, if alcohol prices and cigarette prices would rise, it would be perfect because then government would have, be raking in millions to help out in the funding of free education. The second form of tax would be value added tax. You could increase that from 14% to at least 16%. The third kind would be, they could introduce a new form of tax on businesses, the free higher education tax. Business already contributes towards education in this country through the form of providing bursaries. So this would be nothing new. They don't have to provide bursaries anymore, but it would be standard for them to contribute to free higher education. Also, there's that 1.4 trillion rands that's sitting in their coffers and not doing anything. So government can impose tax on that. For every year that money continues to sit in their coffers and not do anything, they can tax them on that. So, the fact that they're not using that money to provide employment, to contribute to free education, then you must not be bothered if it's taxed in. So yeah, it sounds like quite reasonable ideas in terms of actually providing this thing called free higher education. Moving on to other news, former KZN Premier Senzo Mngunu was running to be the Secretary General of the ANC, but was somehow questionably defeated. So the initial counting of the votes resulted in him actually winning the seat. But then after Nomvula Mkonyani, aka Mama Action, asked for a recount of the votes, Ace Mahashule won the seat. But now, because there are 68 votes that are missing. So initially they were there, they counted Haibo, this guy won, but then they recount and he loses. So it's very suspect, especially because it's like you have this guy Sezongunu who is a credible character, someone who is very vocal against corruption, and then you have Esma Rashule, who is allegedly a Gupta crony. So now my question would be, why would the ANC intentionally want to sabotage themselves, in the sense that your constituency is crying and saying, corruption we can't deal with anymore, and they're willing to vote for other people, but you want to consistently keep this state capture narrative going. It really doesn't make any sense why they would want to sabotage themselves. So yeah, no, we will just see what happens with this new government that's been placed. So, on international news today, the ANC has spoken. They voted for the NEC top six, and Cyril Ramaphosa is the new ANC president. His deputy is Mpumalanga Premier Didi Mabuza Gwetamantashe coming in as the chairperson. The Secretary General being Ace Magashule, who is the Premier of the Free State. Jesse Duarte coming in as Deputy Secretary General, and finally Paul Mashatile coming in as Treasurer General. So very interesting team. 50% of the NEC top six being from the CR17 campaign, and 50% being from the NDZ campaign. So yeah, no, somewhat balance of power, if you want to think of it that way. But the number one thing I noticed was the fact that the ANC was talking about how they're overcoming patriarchy and they're ready for women leadership, because apparently you have to be ready for women leaders. You have to be ready somehow. So that being completely thrown out of the window with just one woman in the NEC top six. So yeah, very interesting observation right there. But you know what? A friend of mine was, drawing this to my attention, that the general euphoria yesterday was similar to the one in 2007 when Jacob Zuma was announced as the president of the ANC, and he's right. I remember, how excited I was in 2007. I was 11 years old. I wasn't really sure why this guy was meant to be the president of the ANC, but I just knew it was exciting times. It was his rightful place. Me, I was very, very excited, and I couldn't wait to vote when the right time came. And then yesterday, I felt the sense of relief, because the NDZ slate came with a lot of alleged Gupta links. So it was just a continuation of the now government. And so not just, the fact that the Gupta links are not as hectic with this new NEC top six. But just looking at Cyril Ramaphosa and thinking, economically, he's the reasonable choice for them. And I think that economically, he could make a good president. So, yeah, congratulations to Cyril Ramaphosa. But then, his team is very questionable. Didi Mabuza and Ace Magashule both have these long slates of alleged corruption. So you have Ace Magashule, and apparently his son Tepiso Gift Magashule is a director at one of the Gupta companies. And then there was that Vrede dairy farm saga, where the Free State government gave this Gupta linked company 184 million rands for apparently not actually doing anything. So very interesting Gupta links on his part. And then you've got Didi Mabuza, who is the premier of Mpumalanga. And initially he was, talking about a unity slate, and now not so much. So, he's got apparently, a whole lot of tender fraud corruption going on in his backyard. And then, yeah. And then he's apparently been linked to, the political killings in Mpumalanga. Not just that, but, his friendship with Robert Gumete, who is an IT millionaire, is very, very questionable. He's a donor to the ANC, especially the ANC in Mpumalanga. And so, a lot of people are very worried about that. And of course, it does, sound like bringing in another shadow state with him. So, two very interesting NEC members. Um, but you know what? I think the ANC's got a lot to deal with outside of its party. We don't know what's going to happen in 2019. The constituency is mad. But also the fact that they would also vote in these two questionable characters into the government is very questionable as well. And so it's like, is there anything different? I mean, is there really anything different? So we'll just see in 2019. I personally haven't decided who I'm going to vote for. I always say it's just a matter of voting for the lesser evil of the three between the ANC, the DA, and the EFF. And you choose, you make a decision in the voting booth. So we shall see. Anyways, this has been your political quickie this week. My name is Mapasika Mura. Use your talents to serve humanity, and I will see you next week.